you in the studio. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. We caught up down in Gore, and that was interesting because that was National Lamb Day. How do you think it went in the wash up of everything?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty awesome. I loved the fact that on the day there was just a social media like Lamb Day, Happy National Lamb Day, and it was just flooding through on all channels, even from people outside the sector, supporting industries, everything, and I think that in itself, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing about it is it has to be a message kind of not to farming people, really. You do 100%. Not have to convince farming people that lamb's good.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like lamb for all of us, and I think there's many different parts of the supply chain, right? And across it, the word lamb means something different to all of us. And like for us as sheep farmers, it's like the actual lamb that we ethically raise, and then you get to the supply chains, and you've got your transport companies, and they transport the lambs, and then at the meat companies, it's the carcass that they ethically process, and then from then to the supermarkets, the lamb means that roast chop, or the roast, and then the chops, and all that, and then for the consumers, it's what they choose to buy based on what they want to feed their families off the shelf and take home and cook. And so I think without one part of that, the rest is kind of nothing. And so I think it's really important that Lamb Day is celebrated in its entirety as the whole system. Yeah,
that's an interesting point, and something that I don't think people probably consider necessarily, but given where you come from, where is that exactly? Where do you farm?
So my husband and I farm in the Maniototo. We are sheep, beef and arable, and so we're in a little corner of the Maniototo in central Otago called Puketoi. And Puketoi is just under 3,000 hectares, hill, flat and irrigation, finishing farm. So yeah, we finish a lot of lamb. That's kind of our bread and butter, so yeah, it means something to us as well.
I bet. Well, irrigation's interesting because you're involved quite a lot. Aren't you on a board of irrigation New Zealand or something? Or
yes.
You're still doing that.
Yes. Yeah. I started. I stepped onto our local irrigation company board back probably about, what is it now? It's 2024, so it would have been just over 10 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
And
you're an old hand.
Steady. So I did that for 6 years really, and I think you just and through that whole the changing political landscape over that time, it's sort of you sort of learn a lot about what that actually means and all the complexities that come with that, I suppose, and all the it's an interesting and ongoingly challenging space.
I bet it is. Yeah. We speak to Vanessa Winning quite often as well from Irrigation New Zealand, and talking about water storage as one thing. Quite a big topic or subtopic of that overall talking point really, and what we do with it and stuff like that. What have you done in your region that you're particularly proud of, I guess, in terms of water?
Yeah, so when I think about water for us, like we're a 350 mil rainfall, and so when you start dropping below sort of that 300, which we can, that's a desert. That's defined as a desert, and so water for us is basically the difference between finishing a lamb and not, and that's the resilience that we can create within our business, and a lot of that is around storage and access to water when we need it most, and that also in turn is our ability to adapt to the challenges that we face around climate, water quality, biodiversity and all that, because that enables us to be a resilient business that we can actually adapt and reinvest and evolve over time as our environment changes, I suppose. Yeah, so no, it's pretty important part of what we do, and it also allows us to do the arable, which is the diversification. You wouldn't really grow a high value crop on your dry land.
Yeah.
In the Maniototo, because it.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and I thought, am I just off the mark there? But it doesn't. That seems slightly unusual. But I wasn't quite sure if I was right in thinking that. But you've kind of confirmed it.
Yeah, well, I think I had a reporter ring from a couple of years ago talking about the dry land, or the dry conditions at the time, and he was saying, oh, so what are your dry land crops looking like? What are your arable crops on the dry land looking like? And I was like, well, we actually don't grow crops on dry land because you'd never get a return out of them, because you can't guarantee that they're actually going to grow. I mean, one year in 5 you might get a bumper.
Might get something,
but
yeah.
apart from that, you've got to consider like what you're putting in, and costs on top of what you're going to get back, and there needs to be some sort of certainty around that, and that's access to fresh water.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting chat around that space at the moment. Hey, you're also with Feds as well, aren't you? Fed farmers as well.
Yeah.
You're one of those people, aren't you?
I know.
Yeah. Well, you're on the Otago.
Otago exec. Yeah. So it's been an incredibly busy space over the past couple of years, I'd say, as a lot of the regulations from central government sort of land and come through and start being enacted through regional policy statements and plans and stuff like that. So it's an ongoing space where we're trying to engage to get some positive outcomes and solutions that will actually endure, I suppose. That's sort of
Yeah, interesting. So you've mentioned politics twice, and in what are we, 6 minutes through? So it's interesting. So you've opened the can. So let's go down it. What are your thoughts on? I guess, I mean, do we want to relitigate the last 6 years? Probably not. People know what's happened, and people voted for a change in government. So I guess now we look at what we've got, and I guess your early assessment of the 450 ag ministers that they've gotten there. I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm saying.
I think it's time to get some solutions on the table. It's time to actually knuckle down and get some solutions around some of this stuff, put it on the table, otherwise we will be told. And I think we cannot, as farmers, keep rolling within this 3 to 6 year election cycle, relying on things that are going to change or going to change the other way. We've got to start front footing this and actually build those solutions now, because we run businesses where we're working to goals that are way beyond 3 or 6 years, and I think it's really important to keep your eye on the long-term goal, build around that, and then that enables us to be more resilient in the long term, I suppose.
It's an interesting one though, because the problem, of course, with politics is it runs on 3 and 6 year cycles.
Yep.
And in a best case scenario for a certain side of the fence, 9, which is unusual, but it has happened.
Yep.
So do they care, would be my positioning or my question, beyond a 3 or 6 year term?
I think we've got to pull ourselves out of that. I think
can't rely on politicians, can we? That's my point.
Yeah, I think we as farmers run businesses that are incredibly intertwined with the environment that which we live. So there is always going to be a public interest in what we do, and so I think there's been too much focus on that government space and not enough focus on actually just farming and coming up to solutions with some of those challenges, and therefore that can take your focus too far that way, and so therefore you are locked into a short-term vision or goal, and then but we need to sort of get past that. But it's funny that you mentioned politics, because I was talking to some of the guys yesterday and they will be laughing because they will say, you only took about 5 minutes into the conversation, you're already talking about politics. I said I wasn't going to talk about politics, but the trouble is that politics is part of everything we do as farmers. Like we're interlinked with it, but it's kind of how you decouple that and actually look past that. Because
that's tough.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because they're the ones who set the set the parameters really, and the laws. And once something's a law,
but they set it, but the government of the moment is reacting or acting on public pressure. I mean, because public are the people that put the government in place, and so if we're thinking beyond politics, who are the people that vote for the government? And there lies our circle of influence, isn't it, to actually get enduring solutions? Because if we are I'm run into digging myself a hole here, but if we're constantly focused on government, then are we dividing ourselves too far, becoming too polarized, whereas the solutions sort of lie in not focusing on the government but focusing on joint solutions, because as I said before, there's always going to be that